We'll just wait for a few more minutes so see if anyone else comes on board. Andrea. Is Andrea on yet? You are. Hello, Andrea.
Hi. We've got Ruthie there.
Yep, she's here.
I'm here.
I can.
We probably need to let everybody know that we're quite nervous about this.
Yeah. I was telling everybody this is the first time we've done a group webinar like this, so bear with us. And we'll.
I think I need to go and get my umpire sweatband so I can wipe my brow.
Okay, so I'll just share our screen here so we can get started. So for this session, we're going to go through these rule updates for 2020. So we're going to go through match length, centre pass, stoppages, and methods of playing the ball. And Andrea will just chat about a few scenarios. So I'll get them now to introduce yourself, and I'll mute myself.
Thanks, Jamie. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea. I'm a New Zealand umpire, and I'm part of the leadership group with the Hamilton City Netball Centre, which I'm really proud to be part of. And look, I'm really pleased to be able to give something back to the centre. I've had a tremendous last 8 or 9 years, and it's great to be able to give something back and try and help you navigate these new rules. Ruth and I are pretty nervous about doing this, but I think everyone will be able to take it for what it is. And obviously, if you have any questions, you can fire them back at Jamie, and we can come back to you at a later date. So I hope you enjoy tonight, and I'll pass you over to Ruth.
Thanks, Andrea. Yes, I think my heart is beating faster than before I go to start umpiring a game. But anyway, for those I know a few of your names that I've seen pop up, but for some of those who don't know me, I'm Ruth Robinson. I'm a New Zealand B umpire and also a part of the Waikato Bay of Plenty Level 2 umpire squad. I'm also a coach, an umpire coach, I should say. I'm also part of the Hamilton City Netball Centre umpire leadership group, which I really enjoy, like Andrea, being able to give back and help get some umpires upskilled more at our centre level. And I'm also a board member, so that's me. Back to you, Jamie.
Okay, so we're going to start off with a match length. So we've got scenario 1. Here we go. So Ruth, do you want to explain this one?
And that's me.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Rightio, we'll start off with this one. This particular rule, I don't know if anyone I've just got my new rule book here. I don't know if you've got access to the new rule book yet or not. And for those of you that do, I'm referring to the match length rule on page 19. If you want to just quickly flick to that so you can see where we're heading to. Under match length rule 4.1 subsection 3. Now what this rule is referring to is knowing when the end of the quarter finishes or when the end of the game finishes, and making sure that that the whistle's actually blown for that. Previously, if there's been a infringement happen in the circle, you've blown for the infringement and the hooter has gone to end the quarter or end the period of play, you haven't signalled the end of the quarter until that penalty has been taken. What they're asking for now is that you acknowledge the end of the quarter or the end of period of play, and then you advise the player who is to take the penalty, in this case the red goal attack, that they can take the play outside of, it's like an extension to the period of play. Now, what that would look like if you are a coach or player, say in a Premier game, say Thursday nights, when we play our Premier games, and you're being umpired perhaps by a New Zealand umpire or a New Zealand theory umpire, technically they should have upskilled themselves to know that. But what it might look like if you're a coach or manager or player on a Saturday and you have a club umpire or a younger or less mature umpire, they might not know that. But what they will know is that the penalty can be taken in the goal circle. So as much as there is now a clarification for ending the period of time, what that looks like for you on a Saturday if you have a club umpire versus what a Premier match would look like if you have a more experienced umpire can be a little bit different. Over to you, Ruth.
Cool. Right. So I've got scenario 2. Jamie, are we going to bring scenario 2 up? Cool, here we go. All right, so further to what Andrea was just explaining, the main change that has happened is we do here, it's just the changes when we actually blow the whistle to end the quarter. So here we're saying blue goal defence is standing too close to red goal shoot, who is shooting for goal. Just before the umpire blows their whistle to penalise the obstruction, the umpire is alerted to end the quarter. So what we're asking here is, do they end the quarter without an attempt at goal? What we're looking for, the wording in this one, is just before the umpire blows their whistle to penalise the obstruction, the umpire is alerted to the end of the quarter. So the end of the quarter takes precedence over the penalty, because at the end of the quarter, the penalty hadn't been penalised, if that makes sense. So just to clarify that, if the umpire had have blown their whistle to penalise the blue goal defence, then that would mean that you then, like what Andrea said, that action then carries on with that way. That's it, moving on.
Good work, Ruth. Thumbs up for that one. Okay, so we move on now to the next change in the ruling, and it's just some clarification around the centre pass. So I'm just going to read to you, if you've got your rule book there, it's page 37, and it's rule 8.2, subsection 2, if you want to flip to that if you have your rule book. At a centre pass before the whistle was blown to end the quarter half, the centre pass will be ruled not to have been taken if, section A is, the ball is still in the centre's hands and no player from that team has been penalised. B, the ball is knocked out of the centre's hands by a player from the opposing team. Or C, an intentional infringement by the opposing team has been penalised and the penalty pass has not been taken. So if we have a look at scenario 3, it's actually making reference to part A of that rule. I'll just read through the scenario. It's getting close to the end of the quarter half. At red's centre pass, red centre is standing in the centre circle ready to pass the ball. Umpire A blows their whistle for the centre pass and then penalises the red wing attack for breaking before the end of the period or the quarter half whistle. So the ruling is clarifying that because a player in the red team, well, because the red team had the centre pass and a player in the red team infringed, the centre pass is now deemed to have been taken. So that will that makes a difference, obviously, to the start of the next quarter and who has the centre pass. Ruth?
Cool, yep. So, Jamie, we're moving on to scenario number 4. So this is just another layer on top of what Andrea was just talking about. So this scenario is saying it is getting close to the end of the quarter. At blue's centre pass, blue centre is standing in the centre circle ready to pass the ball. Umpire A blows the whistle to start play. Red wing attack runs past, this is meant to be blue, not black. Blue, that's not your typo, Jamie, by the way, that's in our notes as well. Red wing attack runs past blue centre and knocks the ball out of blue centre's hands. Umpire A blows their whistle for the end of the period, the quarter or the half. So what we're talking about here, there's 2 things that have happened here. First thing is that centre's still got possession of the ball until the red wing attack runs past centre and knocks the ball out of the centre's hands. So as an umpire, as the rule clarification is coming in here, it's asking if the pass is actually taken. So the change is usually if the umpire were to penalise or do something at a centre pass off, it deems that the pass has been taken. So on your odds and evens, it would mean that coming back into the next quarter, it would be that next team's pass. So what they're trying to clear up here is all of these little intentional things that technically people try to do to enable that they're going to get the centre pass at the next start of quarter or half. So it's to stop that type of behaviour from happening. So it means that that attacking team, so in other words, the blue centre, will still have possession of the centre pass at the start of the next quarter or half. Now, added to that, it talks about the red wing attack runs past the black centre and knocks the ball out of blue centre's hands. Now, as an umpire, and this goes back to what Andrea was saying before, this could involve game management depending on whether it was intentional or not. So if the red wing attack's gone running past the black centre, flapping her arms around and accidentally knocks the ball out of black centre's hands, we probably wouldn't do anything. But if it looked like a real intentional move, then we would then enact the game management foul play rule. And once again, that would determine on the umpire's experience and knowledge around game management, because to be fair, that part of the application of the rules is one of the hardest ones to come to grips with. Cool. So that's that one.
Yeah, good work, Ruth. The intentional infringement, that's a real gnarly one, and it takes a lot of does take a lot of experience to actually be able to apply that correctly, and at times we still don't do that either. So we certainly wouldn't be expecting umpires, club umpires, to actually have a grasp of that. Right, the next scenario is still dealing with the centre pass, and this is this scenario is dealing with subsection C of this rule, which is with regard to the intentional infringement of an opposing team. So I'll just read this out to you. At blue centre pass, red centre defends blue centre from 0.5 of a metre. The umpire penalises for intentional obstruction. The red centre stands out of play with the blue centre holding onto the ball. Then the umpire calls time for the end of the period, the quarter or the half, before the pass was released. Because there was an intentional infringement, the centre pass remains with the blue team.
Yeah.
And again, because there's an intentional infringement happening there, an experienced umpire would make reference to the foul play rule, and a caution could be given for that. But a slightly less experienced umpire perhaps wouldn't know or understand that ruling. The other thing is that on a Saturday down at the courts, that could look quite different for some players and some teams as well. And it all comes down to the umpire's understanding of what, if the ball's been dropped, or if a whistle's been blown to acknowledge an infringement, they could look at that and deem that to have been played, the ball to have been played, where in actual fact, if it's an intentional obstruction, it hasn't. Hope that makes sense. Right.
Cool. So thanks, Andrea. That's really good explaining those changes. The next one is about stoppages. So just to help you guys, if you do have your rule book in front of you, we're now looking at page 47, and it's rule 9.3(2)D. So the main change here in the rule is it's now, if a player was in possession of the ball when time was held by the umpire, any player from that team allowed in the area may have possession of the ball for the restart of play. So that's a big change. So with Jamie, do you want to bring up scenario 6 now? So with this scenario, we've got red goal attack is about to pass to red wing attack in the goal third, where the umpire holds time for an injury to the blue goal keep. When play is ready to restart, the wing attack is set up with the ball. So what the question here is being asked of us is that okay? And what we're saying is yes, that now is okay. The rule used to be that whoever had possession of the ball when we held time, they had to actually restart the play again. Whereas now this has changed. It now means that any player who's allowed within that area of the court is allowed to restart play. That's the main change with that rule. So Andrea, over to you for our next scenario.
Thanks, Ruth. Scenario number 7. Red goal attack has possession of the ball in the goal circle as time is held for a stoppage. When the game is ready to restart, the goal shoot takes possession of the ball and shoots for goal. So, as Ruth has just said, the main change is that now any player can take possession of the ball and play it once the game resumes, and that's no different for the goal. That's no different for the goal circle. So,
can I ask a question?
Who's asking a question?
Me. Oh, well, it says Rena, but it's Rosina.
Hi.
Hi. Sometimes players delay the restart of play because they're trying to get in position in the goal circle. What do you do by that? Do you they don't go into the where when you blow the whistle, they may not necessarily be in that same position to restart play. And say in this case, the goal attack had their possession of the ball prior to the stoppage of time.
Yeah.
Well, for the injury, and then decides that they'll pass it off to their wing attack while they set up in the goal circle. And that's taking time out of the game.
Yeah, so I think the key thing here is that the umpire needs to know that they must restart play where the last section of play was. So because because it was in the goal circle, it needs to resume from the goal circle. So either the goal attack or the goal shoot can take it. Does that answer your question?
So if I could just jump in there to clarify. So, hang on, Rosina. Hang on.
Sorry.
So the main change that is happening here is that it's actually from where the ball was when play stopped, not from who had possession of the ball when the play stopped. So I think that's the clarification that's coming here.
Yeah, I understand that. And in the previous scenario, you had out of the circle, I think. But all I'm saying is that sometimes players drop the person who had the ball before the play was stopped because of injury, releases the ball, gets into position. The other players taking their time to get into the position so that the umpire restarts the game, and in the meantime, so that it allows their player to set up in the circle to play the ball, to get to. Do you call that as being? Would you call that as delaying play?
I think Rosina, maybe we could chat about this at the end. If we can just get through all the scenarios first, because we might answer your question along the line, and then if we don't answer the question through, we'll come back to it at the end. How does that sound?
Sorry, I just want to jump in for a second. We've got like about a 10-minute section at the end where Ruth and Andrea can answer any questions. So if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask, if you could just put it in the chat, and we'll bring it up at the end, just so we don't get other people jumping in and out of the conversation. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jamie. I'll just finish with this scenario because I wasn't quite done. When I think the key thing to remember is that the umpire needs to guide where play needs to restart, and that was where it stopped. So the goal shoot can take the pass. The goal attack doesn't need to, but she needs to take it from where the goal attack was. So that's the key around that. Now, if she doesn't, it can be deemed incorrect play of the ball because it's not taken from the right place, and then it can be turned over. So that may answer Rosina's query around that, I hope. If not, we can touch base a little later. But this is where really good communication between the umpire and the player is key, just so that the players are being guided quite directly and is quite clear, so that they don't lose possession of the ball purely because they've taken it in the wrong place. So I think the ruling is quite clear. It can be taken by any other player. It doesn't matter whether it's through court or whether it is in the goal circle. And further to the goal circle area is that they can shoot straight from, once play recommences, they can shoot for goal. They don't have to pass. They can take a shot at goal.
Cool, awesome. Thanks, Andrea. So the next thing, I think it's just important just to remind everyone here, we're doing we're only really talking about the parts of the rules that have actually changed. We're not wanting to go right at this moment into a great deal of content around the actual whole rule. We're just letting you know, we're highlighting what the actual change is, to try and help get some clarity around what it was and now what it is going to be moving forward. So the next one is scenario number 8. We'll get Jamie to bring that up now. Okay, so we're going to be talking about methods of playing the ball, and we're talking about rule number, if you've got your rule book in front of you, rule 9.4.1. Oh, actually, I think it's an IV. So 9.4.1V. So what that rule says is, without having possession of the ball, a player may bat or bounce the ball to another player, but may not bat it deliberately at another player. hang on, I'm reading the wrong rule. Andrea, can you just check in with me here?
Yep, sure. Is it not?
Oh, sorry, no, it is. I'm wrong. I'm actually on page 51. Apologise,
Rule
everybody.
9.9.6.
Page 51. 0.6. Yeah. So sorry, I apologise, everybody. Ignore everything I just said. So this rule is a player may not A, kick the ball, B, fall on the ball to gain possession, C, strike the ball with a fist, or D, roll the ball to another player. So the main point to notice here is that the word deliberately has been removed. It used to read that a player may not deliberately kick the ball. So with this scenario, red wing attack is defending blue wing defence. As blue wing defence throws a bounce pass, red wing attack moves in to defend blue C and accidentally kicks the ball. So is there an infringement? Yes, there is. What is the infringement and what would the sanction be? So what we're saying is kicking the ball, either accidentally, intentionally, anyway, is not allowed. So the sanction would be a free pass. I'll throw the next one over to you, Andrea. Scenario 9.
Thanks, Ruth. Rightio. Scenario 9. Blue goal keep is defending red goal shoot. As red goal shoot passes the ball, the red goal attack to the red goal attack, goal keep intentionally kicks the ball. First of all, no one can kick a ball. But the next little phase to this question is the word intentional. And as an umpire with some experience, as soon as we see something intentional, that comes under our foul play rule. And that's where we start bringing in some game management. Now, this may not happen if you have a club umpire or a slightly less experienced umpire. So just be aware of that. But what I will talk to is the end of the rule, where if you do have an experienced umpire and they know how to apply game management, this is what would happen. So under the foul play rule, a player must not intentionally infringe, however that may be. So in this scenario, the goal keep would be issued with a caution and the red team awarded a penalty pass. And that's where any player in that playing area can then come and take the ball. The infringing player would need to stand down and then play would resume. The game management rule, if you'd like to make reference to it, the foul play rule, and just have a read up on that, is under Rule 13, Game Management. It's on page 66, and it's under Unfair Play, Rule 13.2.1, subsection 2, Intentional Infringing. So all of that's really worthwhile people having a good read through to try and get a good understanding as to how to apply that and how to apply it accurately and fairly. So I think the key thing, particularly in this rule during the match, what a player can't do is that they've taken out the word deliberate, and it's now what is intentional. Does that sound right, Ruth? We've had quite some quite good discussion about this rule, so I hope I've nailed it. I feel like I have.
Cool.
Right. So that brings us to the end of the scenarios that we've prepared to talk about tonight. And now we'll open it up for some questions. I'm just going to check in with you, Jamie. How much time have we got?
Yep, we've got enough time. So if everybody could, we're going to go to our question and answers, but if everybody could please, instead of asking the questions through the mic, just type it into the chat box. And then I'll ask Andrea and Ruth through it so that we're not getting everybody talking at the same time. That'll be awesome. Thanks, guys. We've got a question here from our first question. We have from, I'll just bring it up, sorry, from Paula. She's asking for an explanation on how to communicate to players the taking of a penalty at the end of a period if umpire is blowing whistle in line with timekeepers indication rather than holding off the whistle until the penalty has been taken. Does that make sense?
So is that clarify? Are you just wanting clarification around acknowledging the end of the time period, and then also being able to converse with the player regarding taking a penalty?
Explanation on how to communicate to the players the taking.
Who asked that question? Sorry, Jamie.
Paula.
Paula, can you pop your mic on, love, so I can just clarify with you? Paula,
I'll see if she's still on. Paula, I just unmuted you. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming. Shit, it's not working. Oh. Sorry.
So, Paula, are you just wanting some clarification around the busyness of what happens when the buzzer's going for time, and you're also trying to deal with something perhaps in the goal circle? Ruth, is that what you thought that was being asked from that question?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can see a question up from Frankie Davey regarding in scenario 1 or 2. Is it around this one? Do you blow the whistle for an infringement as the hooter goes for the end of the quarter? Do you blow the whistle to signal the end while the player is playing the infringement? Can this whistle confuse the player? So I think what we're trying to explain here is the main change is how the umpire controls the end of the game when a penalty is being enacted. So what used to happen was, as soon as we heard the hooter go, we would just indicate that the player is to carry on with their penalty, and then we would blow time. We would blow the whistle after that penalty had been taken to indicate that time had stopped. What they're saying now is that the umpire will blow the whistle to end the period of play. So as soon as they hear the hooter, the umpire will blow the whistle to say end of time, and then they will then advise the players that time has been extended to allow them to take that penalty. So that's the main change to the rule. It's just really an indication to the umpires that it's now changing for us when and where we blow the whistle.
And I think
we've got someone's microphone on. There's a lot of feedback coming. Has someone got their microphone on?
Yeah, sorry.
We can hear a lot of background noise.
There we go.
That was clear.
Yeah, I think
that's the main change.
Okay, thank you, ladies. This is Paula. That was kind of the question that I had asked. Like, how do you communicate that in a game situation now that you are blowing the whistle as soon as time is called by the timekeepers, and players are just automatically going to think that that's the end of game. So what's the advice on communication to those players?
That's right. So that's where the umpire would come in and say, goal shoot or whatever, you may play your penalty. You may take the penalty. So it's a verbal indication from the umpire to the players that players to continue.
Yeah. And I think the key, just to add to that, is in some way trying to remain calm and not feel rushed, because the players feel rushed and the coach is probably trying to get them off the court and there's lots sort of happening. But I think if you can just compose yourself with how and slow how you talk to the players down, then they actually take note to that, and try to remain sort of as calm as you can in order to get your message across. And there is a bit of an art to it, because obviously when a hooter goes, everyone sort of goes a little bit chaotic. But if you can try and just hold a little bit of composure with how you speak to the players, and just, you know, just say, look, no, we haven't finished. You can take the penalty, even though I've just blown the whistle for time. I see we've only got about 1.5 minutes left. Is there another pressing question in there, Jamie, that we could have a look at for anybody?
I can see a question from you, Cheyenne, saying, for the first rule, because it's still around the rule that we're talking about, if time ends before the umpire has a chance to blow the whistle for a penalty in the circle, must they end the time period as if the infringement didn't occur? Therefore, the attempt at shot is not allowed. I guess in that incident, it would be yes, because when you've got a hooter signalling the end of play, everyone that you're, as an umpire, immediately meant to be ending play at that time. And if the umpire hasn't actually got the whistle up to the lips to actually penalise it, then it's kind of that the end of game happened beforehand. So I hope that kind of clears that up. It's one of those.
Jump in now because we've only got 30 seconds left and everything's going to get cut off. But we do have another session again next Thursday, where we're going to go over the rest of the rules, and we'll have another question and answer session. So if anyone's got any more questions, you can email me at development@hamiltonnetball.org.nz in the meantime. Otherwise, I'll send out another link again for next week. So sorry.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ruth.
No, thanks, Jamie. Thanks, everybody.